If you've listened to our podcast for any length of time, you know we are huge fans of Forge to Table. Forge to Table is a presenting sponsor of our podcast, and the founder was actually a JWU student when he founded this brand. His motto was and still is today, uncompromising quality at a fair price. And today, our two guests are both familiar with this product, and we're going to have them tell all of you what they love about it. So we have Chef Jon Poyourow and Chef Branden Lewis with us today.
Good morning.
Morning. So Forge Table for me, not only is it a very aesthetically pleasing brand,
I totally agree.
The knives, I think the balance for a lot of their knives are fantastic and very effortlessly are used in my classroom.
Awesome. I'd add to that, they're affordable, they're approachable, stylish. So I agree, Chef Poyourow, and entrepreneurially driven. So I love the story. Noah's a great alumni of ours, and his product is amazing.
Yeah, the fact that it's coming from an alum makes it even better.
Couldn't agree more. If anyone wants to order a Forge to Table knife or any of their accessories or kitchen gear, you can do that at forgetotable.com and use our code CulinaryNow, all one word, for 15% off your purchase. While you're there, be sure to follow Forge to Table at Forge to Table on Instagram, where they share recipes from their test kitchen. They're doing giveaways, and they are always sharing what they're working on for any new and exciting kitchen knives and gear that they're coming out with. Forge to Table is proud to support the development of new and aspiring cooks and chefs everywhere and to join in the effort to create a better industry for us all.
Knives that cut.
Nice. All right, we'll go right into it. Welcome, everyone, to the Culinary Now podcast. My name is Matt Britt.
And I'm Jamie Schick.
And Jamie, today we are going to talk about something that, I wanted to do for a while on the pod. But to be honest with you, I know a little bit about it, but I don't know a ton. So we're bringing in the big guns, right? We're bringing in people that know a ton about this stuff. And we're talking about Blue Zones, specifically Okinawa, Japan today. So we are delighted to welcome back two returning champions of the podcast, Chef Jon Poyourow, Chef Branden Lewis. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. I like the promotion. Champion.
Yeah, I like that. Do we get a belt? Do we get a crown? Do we get?
Oh, a wrestling belt would be nice.
It's in the mail. It's in the mail, but just to be fair, it's not. I lied. So either way, a couple of quick intros here. Jon Poyourow, obviously a chef here at Johnson & Wales University. He's also a doctor of health and wellness and a former Army dietitian. Branden Lewis, doctor of educational sustainability, also chef, instructor, faculty, full professor at Johnson & Wales University. You guys are both uniquely connected to the topic of Blue Zones, but specifically the Japanese sort of location. Now, for those who don't know, there's 5 Blue Zones. There's Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, Nicoya Peninsula and Costa Rica, Icaria, Greece, and Loma Linda, California. But we're going to talk specifically about Japan today because I know you're both connected to this in some way or another. And I'm going to let you guys kind of explain why this particular region and this particular topic kind of matters to you. Branden, can I go with you first?
Sure. First, I think to address some sort of broader concepts with Blue Zones, there's a couple different lists out there by different people. And right now, as you mentioned, the most commonly sort of accepted ones are those top 5, though there are a little bit of controversy as to the selection of which cities and why. And there is sort of a for-profit business that's trying to drive a lot of the the ideas behind these. But we applaud the effort because it's all about it's all about supporting healthy eating and living. So we're all about it. So when you're talking about Okinawa specifically, there's sort of a cocktail of things. And once I'll sort of list them, and then I'll punt to Jon so he can elaborate a little bit more. But what is commonly sort of claimed, and this is on their own tourist website, they list that their Blue Zone status and the length of people living for such a long time comes down to they have a temperate climate environment, subtropical. And so there aren't a lot of like natural disasters and things like that. So it's very like they have year-round growing season. So they're able to grow and live off of like whole foods as well, which is the next component is the diet. Okinawans eat mostly whole foods diets, and the amount of like sort of preserved or processed and industrialized foods are way down on this island. or on these series of islands. Anyway, activity. Older Okinawans are pretty active walkers and gardeners. It's oddly claimed that they have sparse furniture, so they're up and moving a lot. Social connections, which is tied to every blue zone, is strong. Support systems for emotional wellness and also financial wellness. Like there's a support system in place. There's plenty of sunlight for vitamin D. There's different medicinal gardens. So part of their sort of ingredient list is a lot of antioxidant rich foods like ginger, turmeric. There's like a strange little berry that grows there that's considered a superfood. And of course, lastly, there's this great mindset island culture. It kind of reminds me of Costa Rica, the Pura Vida concept. They have one that basically means things will work out somehow. And I'll butcher this, but it's Nankuru Nai Sai, which means things will always work out. So punting to you, Jon, to give a little elaboration on the master list there.
Yeah, no, you definitely hit upon the things. And I have the unique background of, I was just in Okinawa. I spent about 10 days there this past October. So I was able to see a lot of what Branden just said in person, which was really interesting. The sparse lifestyle, absolutely. I get to go to a gentleman's house. He's an ex-Canadian. He moved to Okinawa about 20 years ago, married an Okinawan wife, and we went to his house, and it was very, very sparsely decorated. The only thing that was very European in there, I should say, or American, Canadian, was his refrigerator. He had to have a bigger refrigerator. But there's hardly any furniture from the sit on. They sit on the floors. There's the tatami mats. But the lifestyle that you mentioned, incredibly active. They have a purpose every day. They think of it as ikigai. It's their reason for living. They always put 100% into their beliefs, whether it's tending the garden, whether it's going outside for walks, taking care of their grandchildren, being with friends and family. And the other thing that they do is the harihachi bu, which is they only eat till they're about 80% full at any given time, which is completely different than what we do here in America. So they want that happiness, that satiety, and not the overall being stuffed and disgustingly full feeling. But
they're primarily plant driven too, right, Jon?
Yeah. So if you look at percentage wise, less than 5% of their daily meals is animal based protein. Tons of vegetables, tons of sea vegetables. Breakfast, we would have miso soup every day, along with a little bit of salmon. And then there's a ton of vegetables, the cabbage, the purple sweet potato, which grows there because that temperate climate is so rich in antioxidants and phytonutrients. And we've tried to grow that elsewhere. And the only other place I believe that we can grow it is in Hawaii because of the climate. But that's an unbelievable superfood, like you mentioned there.
Yummy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if we actually told people what a blue zone is. Like, these are areas where people are living a long time, right? And that's why they were dedicated as blue zones and why people are studying them. And are there other things I'm missing in that? Because I'm not sure we actually discussed what a blue zone is.
And so there's a little fun fact about Okinawa. Because of what happened after World War II and with all the military bases that are now in Okinawa, they started to lose their status as a blue zone because of the amount of Americanized fast food. So
interesting.
There was a generation of Okinawans that actually were becoming obese, becoming overweight. Because of that, we brought our bad habits over there, but there's been a resurgence in the traditional Okinawan way. And it's being taught in schools from an early age to eat a healthier and to live a healthier lifestyle. So they're definitely getting back to that way.
And I know, Jon, you mentioned something about like kind of bringing bad habits, and it's easy to pick on Americans for their diet, and we can do that. But I also don't want to necessarily harp too much on the negative. I think that there are elements, and again, we see this in our classrooms because we're teaching this sort of on the daily. The plant-based diet, how does that apply in the U.S.? Like, is the U.S. adopting some of these principles, or is it still cheeseburgers and pizza, and then Okinawans are doing it right, and that's why they're living a long time?
I think there's so many different factors that go into it because, I mean, you have to look at food deserts. You have to look at the cost of food. You have to look at everything that they had that food so readily available over there compared to us. I mean, they were literally going out into the ocean and getting fresh fish every day, which we don't do for the most part here. And that fresh fish was going right onto their table or right into the restaurant. So we have different crop cycles. And I know Branden has more to add to this from a sustainability background.
Well, I think our position in the U.S. is sort of out of like we have a choice and we have options, and so these have to be dining options that people have to like, or lifestyle choices that people have to make. A lot of plant-based cuisines around the world are driven by a number of factors, whether it's religion, geography, climate, economy, all these sort of things that don't really press upon Americans so much as causing us to choose plant-based diets. Typically, our choices are based on health. And so, people may make these decisions. I tend to, when I teach classes, like I teach plant-based cuisine, and we look at this from a chef's perspective, and we're always talking about the chef-driven approach, and that's the idea of, for us, preparing foods that people want to eat that are delicious and plant-driven. We're looking at what we call the chef-driven approach because we don't want it to be a dietary sort of approach or this idea that it's a dinner substitution or that someone's on a diet. It's more like, what are the possibilities? When you look at on the planet, we have 50,000 plus edible plants. That's a rich tapestry to paint with, as compared to just a handful of animal-based proteins that we can consume.
It's interesting because you mentioned like Americans kind of make these decisions based on health, but I would argue that it's also based on convenience, right? I mean, I think America in general, like we're talking about a different level of urgency than what you described earlier in Okinawa. Like you decide, like Okinawan people, they're always moving, they're always like kind of participating in healthy social activities. They're gardening, they're walking everywhere. I think the interpretation in America for convenience does tend to lead towards more processed, more, again, not so plant based.
Well, I'll add to that, Matt, that you also got to keep in mind we have a commercial machine that's selling these products and at
Sure.
the same time shaming us for showing signs of, weight gain and things like that. So it's like we're bombarded with these kind of advertisements. And yeah, there's a sick irony there. But at the same time, you don't see those sort of impressions in other places. We were sharing before this podcast, we all have like sort of, we're sharing social media. And John and I were just talking about this sort of like this little post that came up that was talking about how like 42% of Americans are overweight. Only 4% of people in Japan are, the country as a whole. And Japan has government sponsorship and support. And so in their schools, they have like a certified nutritionist at every school that's assigned there. They have to teach nutrition lessons, but they also, do the food service plans. And there's no industrialized or processed foods allowed. And so there's pretty much, when you're talking about state sponsorship, there's a lot of support going on there and messaging that's consistent with healthy lifestyles, exercise, and things like that. We have some of that stuff, but you know that it's often disjointed and it's in conflict with all the advertising. I mean, studies show the more programming that children watch, the more likely they are to be overweight and to succumb to industrialized foods.
Yeah. And with those schools, they have real kitchens in there, not just heat and serve stuff like we find in our elementary schools here, like real kitchens. And the children take part every day in cleaning the school and moving and learning about the food and understanding from an early age. So it's definitely a cultural aspect.
Well, and it's generational too. You're looking at how are mom and dad eating, and part of the blue zones, going back to the blue zone concept, is that what all these blue zones supposedly share one element is like low stress living, and that's something we really battle with as Americans because we are in a careerist capital society. So we're working hard. Every family, most parents are working, and because we're working, we need more convenience foods to support the fact that we're working so hard and we don't have time to spend in the kitchen making meals. And this is something that, slow food movements and other things like the Blue Zones are trying to say, like, hey, let's slow down for a minute and work together to make a meal. You can, the benefits are more than just healthy diet. It's lower stress. It's more intelligence and verbal communication skills with children who grow up in families that talk during dinner. Like all those things are sort of connected, and it has to do with lifestyle. And so you add stress, you lower life. That's pretty much it.
I want to go back to when we were talking about lifestyle and convenience. And John, I'm wondering when you were over there, if you noticed if you went to any stores at the checkout, instead of being full of like candy and snacks, was it full of healthier choices when you were over there? And were you walking a lot more when you were there? And did you notice people doing that as well?
So we walked everywhere. There's also an unbelievably nice, easy to use tram system. So you can hop on, go throughout virtually the entire island, and it's raised above. I mean, the buildings there are small. They do get tsunamis there, so nothing is above like 3 stories, 4 stories at most. And I think that was like a hospital that I saw that was 4 stories, but it's all concrete buildings. But the transit system is built up high, so you can see where it is at all times. So if you were going to go far distances, you can easily just walk to the tram, take it 1 or 2 stops. But yeah, we walked everywhere. And we hit a lot of what's called Lawson's markets or family marts. And we would think of that as like a 7-Eleven here or Cumberland Farms. So we would go in there, we would get their version of a sports drink, which is called Pocari Sweat. I think it's much tastier than what we have in the States. And you walk around, yes, there's a freezer with ice cream, but there's all these fresh foods that are brought in every day that are made and restocked every single day. There was a little bit of candy, but for the most part, you would see people getting these sandwiches like chicken katsu sandwiches, the egg salad sandwiches, and just the quality of those products. My son was having a blast going in there, getting those, eating that. But yeah, they're everywhere.
So John, real fast, and this is just, kind of a side note, but like when people ask where you should eat in Japan, I actually say 7-Eleven because
Yeah,
it sounds like a joke, but the food there is like legit good. And it's like
next level 7-Eleven.
it's like so
it's
cheap.
ridiculous. Yeah.
And again, it's like fresh sandwiches, and you just go in and you grab. But it also kind of ties into the sort of idea of moderation. You mentioned there's a little candy. There's the sandwiches are smaller. Everything has sort of purpose, and everything is designed intentionally to facilitate that lifestyle. And Branden, I know you want to chime in on this, but just maybe as a way to sort of propel us down the road of the agenda. We talk about purpose. Like I feel we as Americans, we don't truly embrace this idea of ikigai, like which is the reason for living that maybe the Japanese do. And you guys both know we brought our friend from Kyoto to do the soba here, and like you ask him, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to build a bigger restaurant? And he just says, no, I want to make one thing and one thing really, really well. Can you, Branden, kind of elaborate just on this idea of purpose and how people are almost content with not doing more?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and this goes along with a lot of like sustainability theory and concepts, and there's this concept called the cosmic perspective. And right now we spend, especially as Westerners, we spend a lot of time on our devices. We spend a lot of time sitting sedentary on a TV, a computer screen all day working. And we're not, like it wasn't even 10,000 years ago. We're running around with spears stabbing, wild animals and mastodons to get dinner, burning 3,000 calories to get some calories for dinner. Now we're sitting here at a computer all day and then getting high calorie takeout, that kind of thing. So we're completely like detached from our purpose in life because we are distracted by so many things that are going on at the same time, especially in Western culture. The cosmic perspective is this idea that you need to center yourself and think about where you are. We're literally on a giant planet spaceship flying through outer space, sharing the same air and water. It's called Spaceship Earth, and we have to share this space, this food, these resources, and all this. And the only thing between us and death is like 2 miles of atmosphere or something like that. So this corkscrew that we're doing, and in our lifetime, I forget, we move like 15,000 light years or something, or 15 million light years. I forget what the number is, but we're constantly in motion, spinning around, and we forget this. And instead, we're worried about like, oh, I accidentally hit reply all on my email at work or something like that. Like we're constantly bombarded with messaging and distracted. And next thing you know, you are 80 years old and you're like dying, and life is over, and you didn't even really live it. And so this idea of having the cosmic perspective or this purpose in life is richer. And you got to, put the social media down and put the devices down and look outside and go on a hike, go travel the world, go to Okinawa or any of the blue zones, for instance, and experience it firsthand. So what I wanted to do was, we talked about blue zones, but there's this idea of power of nine. Can I tell you guys about this power of nine concept?
Do it.
All right. So we'll see if we've even covered these. I think we could check them off even. The Power of Nine is like the Blue Zone's website. Remember, this is like a commercialized kind of thing where they're trying to basically market and sell Blue Zones for community planning around the world. It's like a for-profit business, but with some really cool ideas. Anyway, they kind of try to bucket these into 9 buckets, what qualifies as a Blue Zone and a healthy, long lifestyle. So the first one they mention is called Move Naturally, and they're talking about having an active lifestyle. Not working like at a computer all day, like this idea that you got to go to a gym to burn calories, like regular lifestyle should be burning those calories. And so that's what they're doing in a lot of these places. Know your purpose in life. So you just mentioned purpose, Matt. And so like having a purpose-driven life is fulfilling and enriching and stress reducing. Downshift, and this refers to like basically de-stressing and like coming down from like say the workday and things. John, you mentioned the 80% rule, and this is the idea of like when you're 80% full, stop eating. For a lot of people, they don't think of it that way. They just know like, oh, I'm good. Like I don't need to eat everything and keep going. And like these French fries are so good, I can't stop eating them. The plant slant, which we talked about, plant-centric eating. Wine at 5, which I think meant like you got to drink your alcohol before 5 o'clock if you're going to have your alcohol. In Greece, I think that's the blue zone that they consume the most alcohol, but still live the longest. It's like 2 glasses of wine or 4 beers. I forget. It's crazy. And it's generous, but I think it's supposed to be before 5 p.m. The next one was family first, and that's like having a family community. And that's connected to the next one, which is belonging, related to religion, but really it's about community and having a support system. The last one is right tribe, and that's like to have healthy relationships and friends. And sort of the way I think about that or explain it to my students is like, healthy friends are friends that want to go do active things that are good for the environment, good for you and stuff like that. Less healthy relationships are like your friend that, wants to go out drinking all night, all the time, every weekend. Let's go get hammered and have a destructive sort of like outlook on life. So like surrounding yourself with healthy minded people is a big part of the blue zones and what they commonly have in the different blue zones have in common. That was all 9.
I think we covered a lot of that. One thing I think we should just talk a little bit more about is you were talking about being 80 years old. And I think if we look at what's happening in the blue zones, when grandparents get old, we're not shipping them off to nursing homes. They actually stay with the family. They're still being connected. They're still there. They're still being active. And I think that it speaks to everything we've talked about with people living longer because of that community, that sense of belonging, that just being involved.
Yeah, purpose, not watching TV all day in a nursing home.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. Now,
go
ahead, John.
No, after you. I apologize.
No.
I was just going to make a comment about the 1 at 5 thing. You do see that a little bit in Okinawa. There's the which I found very interesting. I went to and visited a martial arts school there, and the older instructor, every day before his class, he would have 1 to 2 shots of the poisonous pit viper sake, the habushu. So the
Did you
hot
bring some of that back with you?
Yeah,
Really.
I
Caring is
partook.
caring.
I had a little bit over there. You do see that a little bit over there as well between the awamori, which is their distilled spirit in Okinawa, kind of like a vodka or whiskey, and then a little bit of traditional sake. So I just thought that was a funny story. That's all.
Right.
Now, if we want to bring this like full circle, what are some things that we can do here in the US to help us live longer?
John, it's your turn. I'll let you go.
I
Then I got
Thank
some.
you. You're so kind.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, no, I think some of the simplest things that we can do. I like that 80% rule. I think if most people can step back and say, hey, because I know growing up, I was part of this where my family said, you have to clean your plate before you could leave the table, right? So that was ingrained in me all the years I spent in the military. Like, if we couldn't leave anything on our plate whatsoever, because we don't want to waste food, right? So I think if we can kind of reverse that and say, eat till you're full. Yes, you have food on your plate left over, but guess what? You can store that. You can save that for later, right? Especially at restaurants where most Americans go, they get huge portions. So you can take some of that home. I think looking at getting more plant-based food in the diet, especially more of the high fiber, phytonutrient rich vegetables. Part of that might be difficult because some people, depending on where they are, might not know how to cook some of these things. Might not know how to impart flavor. And that's where chef wise, we can make a huge difference and really help out, in this instance. And the movement, I think just people need to put down the electronics, like Branden was saying, and just move more. Go for those walks every night after dinner. Do something as a family. Connect back with your small circle of people you care about, whether it's your family or it's your friends or it's your pets.
It's so important, John. And I think that, as many of us have children, some younger than others, but I think that, for years, and we all knew this growing up, we've been inundated that the center of the plate is the animal protein, right? And I think one of the things, it's easy as maybe chefs to do, but I think it's actually pretty approachable for most home cooks as well. It's just to flip that percentage, right? Instead of having the animal based protein be the star, have it be kind of like the supporting actor, and really lean into elevating the amount of vegetables that are on your plate. Yes, I agree, John, that the clean plate club thing was something we grew up with. Turns out not the best because it kind of is conducive to overeating. But if you put more healthy shit on the plate, it's even if you did eat the whole plate, and that bucks the moderation thing, but if you did, then it's a little less kind of harmful than just having like a 16-18 ounce porterhouse, like which is great from time to time. Branden, I know you had a list too. I'm sorry.
No, I was summarizing. So, like, I can summarize also, the takeaways. And I think there's one that we didn't talk about at all, but connecting, big, having a community. John mentioned moving, and we talked about having the right outlook or the right philosophy. In other words, having an optimistic outlook on life and opportunities and things. We mentioned obviously ad nauseum, eat wisely, right? Common sense eating, I like to call it. Not this, we're so bastardized of our belief and understanding of what is normal eating in America that we're having like 3 meats in a meal kind of thing when, many cultures around the world might have 1 meat a day or something. And it's not that meat's bad. It's that you need to be consuming your animal-based plants as well. The one thing that we haven't talked about at all is sleeping and napping. And it's shocking to me that it's not in the Power 9 list on that, Blue Zone list, because for the, in the group in Sardinia, I think is where they're attributing a lot of their longevity is to afternoon napping, and like a 1 o'clock, siesta is like magical. People that sleep longer have a much lower risk for Alzheimer's. People that sleep longer live longer. There's studies that support this all over the place. And so I wish I could get more sleep, and I am trying so hard to get more sleep, but it is hard when you have kids and things. But that is a big goal of mine and a big takeaway. All those work together. When you're stressed, you eat more. When you eat more, you don't sleep as well. And when you do things like exercise, then you eat healthier. When you do things like eat healthier and you do exercise, you sleep better. And so like all these things are related. They lower your stress and they help you sleep at night. Like
It's a big circle.
It's a big circle. The circle of life.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to what I think I'm going to probably name the episode, which is the cosmic perspective. Like everything is connected, right? And we're all kind of doing this in real time together. And, I think the community part is obviously one of the more important ones, but just to surround yourself with people that want to see you do well. Right. And I think that speaks to not only, your personal life, but your professional life. I look at the people on this call. I mean, we're all interconnected in our jobs, but we all care about each other's sort of personal and professional growth, which I think is a really powerful and healthy thing. So, you know, this was a quick kind of like deep dive into, the idea of blue zones, how they can be part of sort of making you live longer, live healthier. But, I appreciate both of you guys joining us on, what is arguably a busy Friday, just to kind of share your knowledge.
I think we need to do this again, but from Okinawa.
I agree. I haven't been.
We have to practice what we preach. So we need to be on the beach.
Faculty development funds.
Moving.
I was searching flights while you guys were talking, so I wasn't listening. I hope that was okay.
Jamie and John, we got to take our Woo Woo Crew international now.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I will bring this up to Jason this week.
For your fans, you'll have to tell them later what the Woo Woo Crew is all about. Matt, I had thought about, I forgot about this mantra that we use in my food system studies courses. And that's, we want to be a part of the food system, not apart from the food system. And being part of the food system is everything we've talked about: healthy eating, healthy living, healthy outlook, and participating and not like, damaging our environment and our spaceship Earth.
Yeah. And Branden, I'm so happy you mentioned that, because I think there's an opportunity, as chefs to think, this career is one dimensional, but in reality, as everyone on here knows, like food is like sort of the common denominator of everything in our world. And no matter what you do, it somehow touches the food system. So I think that, the work that you guys are doing, obviously in the nutrition program and the sustainability program, I mean, these are just massive shock waves that are ultimately going to pay dividends. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we're putting out people that are really going to take up the mantle and just crush it and make things better for not just us here, but the world. So kudos to you guys.
Woo!
All right.
Well, I learned something today, so thank you.
All right. Go enjoy your Friday, everyone. Bye.
Have a good one, guys.
Thank you all.